Video, seconded Councillor Sypek. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 4 on the agenda is conflicts of interest. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest on any item on the agenda this evening? No. Item 5 is presentations. Councillors, I know we have some presentations tonight. Who would like to go first? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. Wednesday the 18th of May 2022 is SES Wear Orange Wednesday or WOW Day. As we don't have a council meeting next week, tonight councillors are wearing orange and thank all SES volunteers who generously give their time to help our Moonee Valley community during flood and storm emergencies. The clock tower will be lit up orange on Wednesday the 18th of May to show our support and thanks for the terrific work the SES does in Moonee Valley. The SES Essendon unit has served our Moonee Valley residents since 1981. Your dedication and commitment to serving our community in times of need is nothing short of amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Any other presentations for tonight? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have some sad news. We have a titan of the netball community that has passed away, and her name was Coral Sahlberg. She passed away on April the 28th this year, and through her amazing life, she had an inspired and unwavering passion for the sports, played multiple critical roles and achieved numerous accolades within the netball community. She was also a local resident of Moonee Valley. Coral was also a state councillor for the Cowan region and for a number of years, and as an avid sports lover and fellow councillor, I am deeply saddened and wish to send my thoughts and the council's thoughts to Coral's family, friends and colleagues. Whilst we have lost a valuable member of the Victorian netball community, I have no doubt that her sportsmanship and legacy will continue to inspire many generations to come. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek, and obviously noting that she was so instrumental for the sport of netball in Airport West, setting up St Christopher's Netball Club down there so long ago, and is definitely a huge loss and someone that I've got lots of fond memories of. I would also like to take this time in presentations to congratulate our very own CEO, who was awarded in the IPAA Victoria Top 50 Public Sector Women Award. So I think we can just clap. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but we are all extremely, extremely proud of you, CEO Helen. Helen was one of 4 local government recipients, so we are very lucky to have you as our CEO, and congratulations on the award. Did you want to say anything?
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Also, it was my honour to be recognised alongside so many high calibre women from the public sector, and also was very fortunate and grateful to have our mayor there together with me and a handful of my colleagues. And without this, beautiful organisation, of course, this is not possible. So thanks, the credit go to everyone here and the whole organisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen, and congratulations again. Were there any other presentations for tonight? No, we will now move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is petitions and joint letters. I don't believe we have any, councillors. No, then item 7 is public question time, and we have received 8 questions from 5 members of the community this evening. I will start with question 1, which is from Teresa Day. In Teresa's words, the Council Plan Strategy G1 references implementing the Green Action Plan, which includes an interim emissions reduction target of 44% below 2017 levels by 2025. How will the proposed $300,000 community climate emission reduction reserve go towards meeting that target? And I will refer to the CEO for response.
Thank you, Teresa. Through the Mayor, Council's MV 2040 Action Plan Green includes a range of initiatives to progress towards our emission reduction target. We achieve zero net emissions for our community and reduce emissions from council operations by 95% by 2040, plus climate adaptation actions. The proposed 300,000 community climate emission reduction reserve is just one element of the program to deliver on Council's MV 2040 action plan, Green. Council has a role in helping the community reduce its climate change impacts. Although Council cannot enforce community carbon emissions reductions, it can facilitate, fund, advocate, partner, regulate, and provide services and initiatives to encourage and support community members to reduce the carbon emissions. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Question 2 from Teresa Day is borrowing money for design work on projects that are ultimately unaffordable more fiscally responsible than investing in reducing community emissions to tackle climate change? And again, I'll refer to the CEO, Helen Sway, to respond.
Thank you, Teresa. Through the Mayor, Council's borrowing strategy is based on sound financial principles that satisfy the Victorian Auditor General Office's key risk indicators used to determine a council's medium to long-term financial sustainability. Council is required to make financially responsible investments and must make difficult decisions in choosing projects during budget planning. Council assists the broader community to reduce its emissions largely through providing education through its programs and supporting changes in the regulatory system that are aimed at emission reduction. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Question 3 is from Angela Clark, and again in her words. How much of the $12.4 million allocated to environmental sustainability in the 2022-2023 budget will be used for reducing our city's greenhouse emissions, bracket in particular community climate emissions, close bracket, as per the Council Plan Strategy G1? And again, I will refer to the CEO for a response.
Thank you, Angela. Through the Mayor, $12.14 million has been allocated in the draft budget to areas of environmental sustainability and parks and gardens. Parks and gardens encapsulate all tree planting and conservation projects. $331,000 in the draft budget has been allocated specifically to community emissions reductions and behavior change projects. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Angela's second question is, how much of the proposed $300,000 for community climate emission reduction will be allocated to A, helping households transition to all electric heating, cooking and hot water systems, and B, increasing the uptake of electric vehicles? CEO for response, please.
Thank you, Angela. Through the Mayor, an investigation completed earlier this year provided options for Council to help reduce community emissions. The report prioritizes 10 opportunities. According to relative carbon abatement potential, Council's role, costs, benefits, and achievability for Council. Projects from these 10 opportunities could be selected for Council decision, which could include helping households transition to all electric and supporting the uptake of electric vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Angela, for your questions. Question 5 is from Logan Shield, and in Logan's words. In the summary of consultation undertaken for the Financial Plan 2022-31, item 3.1 titled, What Did the Community Tell Us?, clearly states that 55% of respondents would like to see additional funds directed towards climate change. Why did officers ignore this clear feedback as well as the MV 2040 Community Vision and Council Plan Strategy G1 when preparing the draft 22-23 budget to propose a budget with zero funding to reduce carbon emissions? And I will pass to the CEO for a response.
Thank you, Logan. Through the Mayor, Council considers climate adaptation and mitigation in its actions and budgets. Spend on climate comes in the form of not just capital works projects, but operational budget including procurement of 100% renewable energy for council operations. Council is also active in seeking changes to the planning scheme that support environmental sustainability and climate change adaptation. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. And the second question from Logan Shield reads, the Neighbourhood Issue, Climate Costs and Risks to Councils report released last year by the Climate Council and Cities Power Partnership, of which MBCC is a member, notes on page 7 that councils may be exposed to increased litigation from the community if climate risks have not been properly considered in council decision making. Were council officers satisfied they were not increasing council's exposure to potential future litigation when they proposed a draft budget with zero funding for the Community Climate Emissions Reduction Reserve? And I will pass again to the CEO for a response.
Thank you, Logan. Through the Mayor, Council takes the risks and impacts of climate change seriously and has been proactive in supporting the community to reduce the emission for over 12 years. Through a number of initiatives, including solar PV bulk buys, free energy advice, behavior and education programs, and residential and business energy audits. Over this time, Council has also reduced its corporate emissions by approximately 44% through a number of initiatives regarding energy efficiency and on-site energy generation through solar PV. Most recently, Council has procured 100% renewable electricity for its operations, which will reduce emissions by 75%. In April 2022, Council approved $220,000 from the 2021-22 Community Climate Emissions Reduction Reserve to deliver a number of community emission reduction projects that will be delivered in next financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. I have just been alerted that there was an issue with audio on the live streaming. I might just double check. We might just adjourn the meeting for approximately, well, we might just see if we can get a very quick answer before I go into an adjournment. So for those that are watching online, you may not be able to hear what I'm saying, or you may be able to. But I'll just get a quick thumbs up or thumbs down from someone who is double checking before we go into an actual adjournment. The sound is definitely working. In that case, we will continue. So thank you for bearing with us for that moment. Now, question 7 from the public question is from Kimberly Almeida. Now, Kimberly has asked, how do council officers plan on sufficiently reducing community emissions in the draft 2022-23 budget? And I refer to the CEO, Helen Sway, to respond.
Thank you, Kimberly. Through the Mayor, Council has proposed $300,000 in the draft budget 22-23 for a Community Climate Emission Reduction Reserve to fund community carbon emissions reduction projects. Projects will be selected according to relative abatement potential, best value for local government in influencing change, costs, benefits, and achievability for Council. This comes on top of the $220,000 recently committed to such projects. Council has a role in helping the community reduce the climate change impacts. Although Council cannot enforce community carbon emissions reductions, it can facilitate, fund, advocate, partner, regulate, and provide services and initiatives to encourage and support community members to reduce the carbon emissions. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Question 8 on the agenda is from Sarah Melbourne. Sarah writes in her words, I don't have a driveway or garage and there is no infrastructure in place for me to be able to charge an EV at my home. Buying an EV is something I would like to do in the near future. However, charging at home isn't an option. Why can't I see any funding in the draft budget for the installation of community EV charging stations? And I'll pass to the CEO for a response.
Thank you, Sarah. Through the Mayor, at the meeting on 8th of March 2022, Council resolved to install a electric vehicle charging station at the Council-owned car park at 66 to 68, the Parade, Ascot. While this will be the first charging station on Council land across the municipality, Council has also previously authorized officers to explore further opportunities for electric vehicle charging stations across the municipality in the 22-23 financial year and beyond. Council is also aware of several privately owned electric vehicle charging stations across the municipality that are available for public use. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you to all of the people who submitted questions on for the meeting tonight. Now, I was made aware that the sound was not working just for the first couple of items on the agenda, which is where we welcomed everyone for streaming online, even though you may not have been able to hear. I made note that it looks like the public gallery will be open from our next meeting. However, there may be limits in terms of how many people can come in. And I obviously respectfully acknowledge the land that we're meeting on, which obviously we'll do again. We meet on Wurundjeri Wurrung land, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and anybody who is watching here tonight. And obviously apologies for the sound not working for the first minute or so of the live stream. So after item 7 on the agenda is reports from delegates, and I believe we do have one for tonight. Councillor Tyson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad you remembered. As part of the Metropolitan Transport Forum last Wednesday, we met as part of regular business. A highlight of it was the Department of Transport presenting on active transport, as well as the usual 4 councils that present what's going on in their city. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Any other councillor with a report from delegates tonight? No? In that case, we'll move on to item 9 on the agenda, which is 9.1, award of contract number 203140 for Cross Keys Reserves Landscape and Circuit Pathways Construction Works. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio, and a seconder, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. Officers have put out to tender for a suitably qualified and experienced contractor to provide delivery of landscaping, pathway and civil construction activities at Cross Keys Reserve. These works are slated to include a new dedicated play space, outdoor fitness equipment, new picnic facilities and additional connecting pathways. Officers have undertaken a stringent public tender process, and I'm happy to support the officers' recommended contractor, Open Space Victoria, to deliver this exciting project.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, our residents have been wanting us to install the playground at Cross Keys for a number of, at least a couple of years, especially over COVID. So certainly happy to see this contract be awarded tonight so we can get on with the works down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Any other councillor? No? Councillor Bedio, would you like to close? I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 9.2 on the agenda is the award of contract number 203051 for Plumbing Services Panel 2022 to 2024. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Tyson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation with a slight amendment in point A. After the words estimated value 1.16 to add M.
A capital M for million?
M.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Do I have a, and that's your motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. And a seconder, Councillor Sypek. So moved. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. On this motion, we have a panel of 3 contractors for works. It was really pleasing to see such a high amount of tenders put in. I think 8 or 9 in the end. And through the sort of rigorous tendering process that we put these things through, it's really, really pleasing to see 3 local businesses of Moonee Valley being awarded the tender. So very happy to support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Sypek? No. Would any other councillor like to speak on this item? No. I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? Is carried unanimously. Item 9.3 on the agenda is submission to Melbourne Airport preliminary draft major development plan and preliminary draft master plan 2022. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation with an amendment, please.
Thank you, Councillor Adams.
That Council resolves to note and submit Attachment 1 in response to the Melbourne Airport Master Plan 2022 with the following addition to its submission. A, Part 1, an additional dot point air quality, and B, Part 7, Council suggests that Melbourne Airport commission an independent air quality assessment of the existing and expected emissions from on-site and off-site operations, detailing the first dot point how the can you just give me just a second? Sorry, Mayor.
No problem,
I just
Councillor
had
Adams.
some additional words coming through. Sorry, can I restart that?
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Adams.
Apologies. Okay. The council resolves to, the council resolves to note and submit Attachment 1 in response to the Melbourne Airport Master Plan 2022 with the following addition to its submission. A, Part 1, an additional dot point air quality. B, Part 7, Council suggests that Melbourne Airport commission an independent air quality assessment of the existing and expected emissions from on-site and off-site operations, detailing dot point how the airport activities, current and proposed, are to be managed to minimise the risk of harm to human health or the environment of the surrounding area, including the impact of airport activities on local air quality. Dot point 2, Melbourne Airport's compliance with the Environment Protection Act 2017 and any other relevant legislation, including clear recommendations detailing how any non-compliance will be rectified. Dot point 3, how Melbourne Airport will meet its general environmental duty, and in brackets GED, close brackets, to minimise risk to human health and the environment, including appropriate modelling to assess their effectiveness in minimising air pollution. And then a Part C, rights to the Federal Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development, noting the content of Council's submission for their attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. So moved. Can I just get a general nod of heads that everyone knows what's been moved?
I'm just going to send this through to governance so that last Part C can be added.
Thank you. Whilst you do that, I believe councillors are aware of what's been moved, so I will ask for...
Can I just ask, please, Mayor, why that screen isn't working? Because it's very hard to see and we haven't been sent these words previously.
Sure, Councillor Adams. We just can check up on that. Councillor Adams, we don't have this TV working in front of us, so we can't see what you've got. So if you can just email that around to all councillors.
Yes, I will, sure.
Councillor Sharp, have you got a device? Yep. Councillor Adams will send that through. Okay. Can I just confirm, councillors, if you have received it? Yes, do people need a moment? I'll give people a moment to read it. Okay.
I believe Daria has sent those around. Yep.
Thank you. So the motion, as per on the screen, has been moved by Councillor Adams, and I will ask for a seconder for that motion. Councillor Tyson. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thank you, Mayor, and sorry for that clunky alternative that came through at the last minute. The Melbourne Airport Master Plan 2022 is currently on public exhibition, and officers have reviewed the documents and prepared a submission which is in an attachment to this report on our website for anybody wishing to review it. The submission details why Council considers that the master plan is deficient in addressing risks associated with potential health impacts. Two key concerns are it does not adequately recognise and acknowledge the health impacts to residents in Moonee Valley and other areas affected by the airport operations, and it does not consider any ways to reduce and mitigate the off-site impacts of the present and future operations of Melbourne Airport. The submission covers management of noise impacts, alternative noise metrics, health impacts and residential amenity, options that should be considered for minimising noise impacts, community compensation. So under community compensation, I'll just read out something from the report that I think is worth noting. Council considers that those properties most impacted by noise from Melbourne Airport should receive financial compensation. The rationale and need for compensation is based on aircraft noise exposure is recognised as a health risk. The health effects impact people of all ages, in particular the older, over 65 years of age, and younger, 1 to 14 years of age, members of the community, and can also negative economic effects as they impact the productivity of workers and cause a burden on healthcare systems. There are also examples of where such schemes are employed elsewhere. Also, the environmental assessment methodologies in the submission and state planning controls affecting Moonee Valley, as well as increase in on-ground noise monitoring stations, transport, impact on Essendon Fields Airport operations and environs. And just on the Essendon Fields, I'll also read out a part of the submission. Until a contemporary master plan is in place, both council and the community cannot be certain as to the future direction of airport operations at Essendon. This has implications for the amenity of the area surrounding Essendon Field Airport, as flight paths, their associated noise outputs and the subsequent impacts on residents is unknown. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Tyson.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, in our ward of Rose Hill, that aircraft noise is a way of life, but that doesn't mean that with a third runway that there won't be significant disruption over the coming years. And I'd really like to thank every member of the community who has contacted me about this, as I'm sure they've contacted yourself and Councillor Sypek. This is probably a bit of a sleeper issue in our community. I think we'll be hearing a lot more about it in the coming years. So it's really important that we get on the front foot and put a submission in on behalf of our residents to advocate for compensation, for a flight path direction that's favourable or most favourable to our residents to reduce the impacts on them. I mean, I've lived under the flight path for years, had vibrating windows as planes fly over and everything else, but it doesn't really mean that we need to, just ignore things and move on. Although it's a way of life, we need to make sure that we're pushing for the most advantageous outcome for our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Would any other councillor like to speak on this item? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be brief, but I'll concur with my colleagues that whilst this is a really important project and something that I suppose to some respect is inevitable, many other places in the world, indeed other airports, for example, Heathrow and Gatwick Airport, all have their own insulation programs which offer subsidies and compensation for households through installation of new roofing insulation, double glazed windows and the like. Many of our residents, in particular in the Rose Hill Ward, Airport West, will be affected by this. So I hope that the federal government, in looking at this new development, can consider a scheme such as compensation that should be delivered as part of the project.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would anybody else like to speak on this motion? Councillor Adams, would you like to close?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? Is carried unanimously. Now that is the end of item 9. I did just want to, before we move on to item 10 on the agenda, note that when the sound went down, also what went through this chamber was the apologies and leaves of absence. So Councillor Nation put in an apology for tonight's meeting, and passed unanimously was Councillor Isers' leave of absence from Council from the 9th of May to the 23rd of May inclusive, and that was moved by Councillor Sypek and seconded by Councillor Tyson and voted on unanimously. And then the confirmation of minutes from the meeting from Tuesday the 26th of April was moved by Councillor Bedio, seconded by Councillor Sypek, I believe. And again, that was carried unanimously. So they were the other items that apparently the sound didn't work on earlier. Apologies for that. But we will continue with the meeting. We are up to item 10 on the agenda, which is notices of motion. And councillors, we don't have any for tonight. Item 11 on the agenda is urgent business, and I believe we do have some. Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. You may have to remind me the protocol on urgent business. Do I read the urgent motion?
You don't need to read the urgent motion. You just need to read that you want something to be considered as urgent.
Yep. I have a motion that I consider to be urgent.
Which is?
The council-owned facility support for Ukrainian displaced persons.
Thank you. And you want it to be considered as urgent as it complies with Governance Rule 25, urgent business?
Yes. Would you like some reasonings as to that?
No, I'll ask, you have moved that. I'll ask for a seconder for it to be considered as urgent. Councillor Sharp. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak on why you think it's urgent?
Yes, Mayor. Currently, the Association of Ukrainians in Victoria are turning away donations due to a lack of available storage space, and they risk losing a significant number of donations should there be further delay to the next council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Sharp, on why it's urgent.
Oh, happy to support the urgency of this. Obviously, it's desperately needed. Some help is desperately needed, so happy to support it as urgent.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to talk on why it is being considered as urgent? No, Councillor Bedio. I will put that it be considered as urgent to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Now, Councillor Bedio, would you like to move your motion?
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to my colleagues for supporting the urgency of the item. I'm sure we've all been watching in horror.
Sorry, Councillor Bedio, you now have to move the actual motion in which you want to move.
The motion is that Council resolves to A, request the CEO to investigate and identify options of a suitable council-owned facility for a minimum 12 months with up to 100 square metres. The facility will be used by the Association of Ukrainians in Victoria to support Ukrainian displaced persons, in brackets DPs, upon arrival from the war in Ukraine and link them to settlement assistance. B, bring a report to the council meeting on 24th of May 2022, which will include the assessment of the implications to council.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. That is moved. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I'm sure we've all been watching in horror the atrocities unfolding across Ukraine. Thousands of displaced people have sought refuge here in Australia, and many of these families are settling into our community as their new home. Many of these individuals have come to our country with nothing and are relying on support from the community through donations to help them start out their new lives here in Australia. The Association of Ukrainians in Victoria have requested support from Council so that they can facilitate their aid program to support our new community members from Ukraine. They are seeking up to 100 square metres of space for a minimum of 12 months to be used for the storage of ongoing donations. I'm requesting that officers look for options and report back to Council at the next Council meeting. As a council, we need to stand by the Ukrainian community and do everything that we can to ensure that our new community members feel welcomed and supported. I feel this is the bare minimum as a council that we can do to support, and I look forward to helping the association continue with the wonderful work that they are doing.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. The Association of Ukrainians in Victoria is actually based out of 3 to 11 Russell Street in Essendon, which is obviously in Buckley Ward, just opposite Essendon train station there. They've been at that site for as long as I can remember, a long, long, long time. So certainly happy to support helping this local group, which will in turn help the thousands of displaced people from Ukraine in what is an absolutely terrible situation. So certainly happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak on this item? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd also like to concur with what Councillor Sharp said. We do have a quite a big Ukrainian community here in Moonee Valley with their church on Buckley Street, but they also have facilities. What's the name of the road? I've just forgotten the name of it. Yeah, that's in Russell Street too. Yeah, Russell Street. They also have a social space there as well. But the Ukrainian community here in Moonee Valley, we have seen a number of refugees actually come into Moonee Valley. So I think what Councillor Bedio has put up is quite a worthy urgent business. But not only can we look for areas to store these facilities and to store whatever goods that come in there, but I think Moonee Valley as a council, we could be looking at doing some other things, and I hope their officers will explore looking at other options in which ways we can help some of the refugees from the Ukraine community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would anybody else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Bedio, would you like to close?
I'll just add that I fully support Councillor Sypek's comments and anything else that we can do as a community, as a council, to support the people that have suffered quite a lot in their home country and have come to Australia. I'd be happy to put forward their suggestions through to council officers. So if anyone in the community has any ideas, feel free to contact me, I guess, or any other councillors, and we'll pass that on to officers.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Councillors, were there any other urgent business for tonight? No, and we don't have any confidential reports, which now leads us to the close of the meeting. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Please remember that our submissions to our draft budget are still open, so if you'd like to submit, please do so. And we look forward to seeing you for our next meeting. Thank you, everyone. Done.